Today's episode is sponsored by the Academy for Virtual Teaching. The Academy for Virtual Teaching is a community of creative entrepreneurs building proficient, profitable, and professional online teaching businesses. Are you ready to invest in your business by adding online education to your income stream? The Academy for Virtual Teaching can help you overcome your fear of technology and use educational video as part of an effective marketing strategy. So learn how at the Academy for Virtual Teaching. That's A4VT.com. Thank you so much to the Academy for Virtual Teaching. And now, here's the show. Welcome to episode 254 of the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Craft Industry Alliance is a community for craft professionals where you can strengthen your creative business, stay up to date on industry news, and build connections within our supportive trade association. Check it out at craftindustyalliance.org. Today on the show, we are talking about craft parties and events with my guests, Christie Troxell. Christie is a master maker and creative professional specializing in the craft and party industries. In 2012, she founded Ritzy Parties and grew a 5-star business creating immersive, over-the-top celebrations for luxury and corporate clients nationwide. Christie also works closely with dozens of major global creative brands, retailers, and manufacturers as a strategist, designer, trend forecaster, and social media partner. So Christie Troxell, welcome.
Thank you.
It is so nice to have you. Yeah. And we first met actually in person, which was so lovely at H&H Americas when you did some wildly successful demos in our booth. And I was like, what is this person? Like, there's a line, and there was literally a line the entire time. And I was so impressed. So I'm very excited to learn your story and a little bit more about you and how you make this magic happen. So, if it's okay with you, let's start by telling me what Ritzy Parties is all about. Like, start in the now. What do you do with like planning these parties for big corporate clients and other people as well?
So currently, I'm servicing luxury and corporate clients, and it kind of grew from lots of different kinds of parties to me segmenting my business into that because I just have the most leeway, the most ability to kind of use my skills when I have these larger budgets and the clients know me and they're willing to let go a bit of the process, and they get these immersive events where everything that you experience when you come into that is intentional. What you're seeing, tasting, hearing, feeling, it's all created, and it's a long process, and I bring the vibe. I don't know how else to describe it, but I get basically a theme. We have a few discussions, some image boards, go back and forth until we feel like we're really on the same page. And then I just come in and kind of wave the wand around, and I have a team that helps, and we install in the morning. We're there all day getting ready, and then the party time will hit and everything goes off great, and we tear it down the same day. So it really is just like kind of like Santa's elves is what I feel like we come in and do. And they seem to be very happy with the outcomes. I have a great time. The team has a great time, and it's a great joy to be able to do that.
And I have to admit that I am like a terrible party person. So I'm terrible at planning parties. And I'm also like a terrible party participant because I just come and talk to one person the whole time. And I'm just sort of a shy person. So I'm actually curious to know, like, what makes for a good party? Like, what have you found are the elements that really make one? Because I'm sure you've had some that have been less successful and some that have been more successful. So what makes for one of these events that really does work?
So I do really try to keep the behaviors of the individual audience in mind when I'm planning. And I like to create different stations throughout the event that you are kind of compelled to go check out. There's definitely some signage and some things that drive people will make sure that they understand through the messaging that I put out, or through, I have environmental entertainers who will engage the crowd and pull them over to those areas. But I like to keep the flow going so that there's different things to experience. There might be a photo op, there might be an activity, there might be a specialty food station or a dessert station, a specialty drink station. I try to separate the bars. We often have a lot of gaming and swag tables, entertainers. So I just really like to keep it going. I've even done once in the middle of a party, we started with a DJ. And then about an hour and a half into the party, we brought in another DJ. And it was like we dropped a party on the party. And the tempo came up really high with that second DJ. We just kept him for a couple hours and then we closed out with the first DJ. So just always a surprise. We throw in just a lot of engagement, things to do, things to see. The more you look, the more you experience. And we send them home with just armloads of little memories and tokens that they can enjoy afterward.
Yeah. And I feel like those different stations sound like, you would have a memorable experience because even if it was goofy or whatever, later, when you're looking back or remembering that event with your friends or the people that you were there with, you'll be like, oh, remember that thing that we did together. And those experiences seem like it's more, memorable than just having like a plain dance floor and like a buffet and that's it,
Yes. Yes. It really is about putting a dome over that crowd and making sure that everybody is tended to within that dome. So it's designed to engage everyone, and even our introverts, we make sure that we're thinking of that. We know that not everybody is, going to jump out onto the dance floor first, but we make sure there's no party guest left behind.
Okay, so I would love to hear how you got to this point and decided that, planning these events and experiences was really your strength. So let's take us back now. Where did you grow up and what were you like as a kid? Were you always, you're quite extroverted now from what I can see. Were you always this way? Did you love birthday parties as a kid, or what were you like? Were you crafty too as a child?
So I was very extroverted as a kid. I always have been very, just say the thing or just talk to the people or, talk out of turn. So I was kind of known for that in school. My fifth grade teacher called me a party animal on my progress report. My parents did not like that, but he was absolutely right. Thank you, Mr. Reimer. He was right about me. I do love parties. I love that gathering of people and that energy, and the fact that parties are a time when everybody's really happy. It seems to me that the celebrations are, it's so much fun to be part of that energy of people, because it's just everybody's there for the same purpose, which is to be entertained and have fun. And
tell us a little bit about your family and where did you grow up? I know you live in California now.
I am a California native. I'm actually an Orange County native. I grew up in Orange and then Anaheim Hills. And my family, I was adopted when I was 3. And the family I grew up in they didn't really appreciate my charming ways. There was a lot of stifling. My parents were very, they wanted me to have solid skills, and they didn't really understand the creativity or the need for glitter or the not really being that interested in math. So I can't say I was always super supported, but it absolutely made me tenacious, because there is just something in me that must create and must, pursue these interests of mine. And so, I defiantly did this, and actually ended up finding my family, my biological family, when I was older. And lo and behold, my biological mother had a craft room that envied my own, all the same kind of style of stuff. It was so validating. Her whole side of the family are artists, crafters. And I was like, it is in the blood. Like, this is so cool. And I felt like I just, I had come full circle. And so I'm glad that I never, really let it go. I am compelled to create and constantly swimming with ideas and must have all the supplies. I'm across all different craft specialties. I just skills coming out of the skills and no explanation for it. Nobody can figure it out, but that made it make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Wow. That's a neat experience. I'm glad that you were able to connect and have that for,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. So, and I also I think a lot of our listeners, myself included, can relate to that feeling of always wanting to create things and not necessarily loving math. Although, listen, there are math loving craft people out there, but,
Of
so
course.
when you graduated from high school, what did you want to do? And, what did you think maybe your career aspirations would be?
So my first career aspiration ever, I wanted to be a lawyer. And this was kind of squished by the family. And, it was going to take a lot of school. It was going to be really hard. It's very competitive. So then my next choice was interior designer, also squished down. They really wanted me to pursue business. And so this is what I followed because, I think my parents had my best interest at heart and they wanted me to be able to have skills that I could always survive on. And so I pursued business and accounting and bookkeeping, things like that. So for the first 20 years of my career life, I just slowly rose the ranks of, going from an office manager up to bookkeeping, up to I managed executive suites, and then I was an operations manager. Then it just kept kind of stone stepping until I was a corporate controller by the end of my career, and I was running finance and operations for this engineering firm that had three different separate businesses that I kind of ran congruently together. I just facilitated the purchase of a building for them, and I was having my second child, and I just decided I didn't want to go back to that. I was so bored. The repetition of it, like I clearly understood how to do it and had climbed kind of this ladder of, getting to a great point in my career. I was always very self-supportive, made my own money. But I was really bored. And on the side of doing all of that, I was still creating, and I was the person you came to if you wanted your wedding done, or if you needed your house decorated, or if you were having a party and you needed unique ideas. I could make anything you wanted, costumes, home decor, holiday gifts, food, candy, makeup, costume, just it was anything I tried. That was creative. I just loved doing it. I was hired to paint a mural on someone's wall, someone that I worked with. So it just was always kind of living on the side. And around that time, after I had my daughter, I had a friend who she just really kept pushing me into it and saying, you should do this as a business. You should do this as a business. And, I'm like, come on, we don't have to monetize everything. I can just do it for pleasure. But she really just kept pushing. And I finally, almost out of spite, was like, fine, I know how to start a business. That's what I do. So I'll start a business there. I filed articles. I'm a corporation overnight. There you go. I did this in September of 2012. And I just thought, by the end of the year, I'll try to do like 6 parties. That'll be my goal, right? You got to have a goal. And so 6 parties was the goal. And I didn't know how I was going to do it or if I could even achieve that. By the end of 2012, I had done 27 parties. And I had a pipeline for the next year, and people absolutely were buying it and they loved it. And I wasn't advertising. It was all word of mouth. It was, someone had been to something and they all wanted the number of who did it. And that's kind of how it initially grew into the party planning business. Probably, I don't know, maybe a year to 2 years into that, I sort of thought I would be doing better, right? Because of all of that activity. But what I realized is that I had been so excited to have new business and build this portfolio of pictures that I was giving people great deals. And I was kind of not charged. Sometimes I was just breaking even. I think on one party I even lost money, but I just really wanted those pictures so I could have this amazing portfolio of what I could do because I hadn't really done it for a long time, right? I wanted to be able to show what I could do. Like vacation pictures, nobody wants to see that. Nobody has ever asked me to see my portfolio, not even once. And about 2 years into it, I realized I was just kind of spinning my wheels and that people really wanted to know that I could do their party. And they already had been to a party that I'd done, so they know that I can do parties. They only want to know that I can do their party. And so I started focusing more on that. I also started, I was kind of lonely. It's a solo business, what I'm doing, until it's time to bring in the team. It's just me. And so I didn't have coworkers. I had nobody to bounce ideas off of. And I thought, I need a community. I joined a networking group that was pretty high level to kind of get, myself out there and have something to do once a week and other professionals to connect with. And then I realized I should connect with professionals in my own industry. So I started looking for conferences and trade shows that served the party industry or the creative industries. And so that's when I started going to some conferences, and that's where I met brands. And when you're extroverted and you have a business background and you like to talk to people and you do good work, the brand work comes quite simply to you because, you can make those connections and then foster those deals. And so I was picked up almost immediately at my first conference by Oriental Trading Company. And that was a 9-year relationship that, I was one of their top bloggers. I was one of about 30 people nationwide who created content for them for party, wedding, and craft. And just an amazing community of women, an amazing team. And once you're on a great team like that, the other brands came in. So I started working with Evi.
Before we get to the other brands, I just wanted to go back to Oriental Trading. So for people who aren't clear about what that is, can you explain what Oriental Trading Company is?
Sure. They are the nation's #1 online party retailer. So it's kind of like Party City meets, like Target meets Walmart meets Dollar Tree, and it's all in one place on orientaltrading.com. Then they developed the Fun Squad, and that was us. And so they have another website I think a lot of people maybe aren't aware of. It's where you get all the inspiration and the images of what you can do with their products. And that website is called fun365.com. And so that's where a lot of our content went, but it's using all of the products from Oriental Trading Company.
Okay. And was this a paid position? Like, was it adding to your income, or was it just giving you that network and the experience?
No, this was a very well-paid position. Yeah, I would say that, in the thousands every month.
Wow. Okay. So, and it sounds like you did this for a long time and it really helped to connect you. Where did you actually meet them at first? I know you were going to some different events. Which event? Do you remember where you met them?
I do. It was a party conference that actually it's not around anymore. It's called Bash. And that was in 2015. I went to that. It was just for the party industry. But what happened is I started taking interest in other conferences for creatives. And so I went to the Snap conference, and then I brought Oriental Trading to the Snap conference.
Okay.
Among other brands. And so, we kind of just always have collaborated together on things like that to grow awareness of each other. I think it was a very great symbiotic relationship. And, I was so fortunate to work with such a great team. My initial photos too, they were horrible. Like, that's one of my favorite stories is they gave me my first assignment. I was so excited. It was a mermaid party. And I submitted my pictures for my DIY and my full party and my other DIY. And I got an email back that essentially said, honey, no, this is not how we do. This is not how we do it. And, I could tell they were just like, wow, absolutely not. Here's a class. They actually directed me and paid for me to take a full-on photography class. It was taught by Candace at My Mind's Eye, which is a paper creative company that makes lots of fun party stuff. And it was like a language opened up, and suddenly I understood how my camera worked so much better. So if I ever, need a moment of humility, I love to look back at those original pictures and then look at my pictures now and realize what a gift that was, that I had a brand that not only picked me up and was willing to work with me, but also willing to kind of let me grow with them, which was so appreciated.
I want to take a moment now to talk with our sponsor, Lyric Kennard of the Academy for Virtual Teaching.
Hello, I'm with the Academy for Virtual Teaching, and I'm Lyric Montgomery Kennard.
Hi, Lyric. So I'd love to learn more about the Academy for Virtual Teaching. How does it work?
Thanks, Abby. We have different levels of membership. It's a private community where we, as virtual teachers, support each other in developing our businesses. There's a lively discussion that's always going on. We have a free level, but we also have a business development level where we have just ongoing, amazing workshops. We have live workshops every month that will help you build your business, whether it's learning how to better use Zoom, how to do email marketing. We have all kinds of equipment recommendation videos. In the pro level membership, you have the opportunity to do hands-on exercises, hands-on workshops with experts who can help you build that part of your business. But there's also an entire library of previously recorded workshops available as well.
Right. So if you want to add online teaching to the repertoire that you currently have, this is the way to go because you get a community and expertise and all the answers to your questions.
Yeah, we have so much more available there. I especially want to point out that for members of the Craft Industry Alliance, because you are all amazing makers. And if you have that desire to share what you create with other people and add that kind of online teaching to your business, I have a 1/3 off coupon for our professional development level membership.
Wonderful. Wow. That's terrific. So I think this is a great addition to anybody's business, a way to reach new audiences and, really grow your bottom line. So this is great to know about, Lyric. Thank you so much.
We'd love to have you all join us. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much to the Academy for Virtual Teaching. And now back to my conversation with Christie. And so obviously you grew in your photography skills tremendously, it sounds like. What other ways do you feel like you grew through those many years that you collaborated with Oriental Trading?
I mean, for sure, the community of women who were also like me, it was like I had found a tribe of unicorns. We were all these, hyper creative, just the ideas that come out of these people. It was like we all spoke the same language. We all liked the same ideas. There was not, among women, there can often be like a gossipy or, just talking about things that aren't that important. But these women all just talked about ideas and future trends and what do you think is coming and what colors do you like and what's your favorite holiday? It was just so refreshing to be among women who were driven and who really cared about things other than, other people and just talking about them. They cared about creating the same things I'm creating, which is we know that we're engineering memories. We know that we're creating this surround that people are going to come into that and experience something, and we're trying to do it intentionally because we know how important that is. So I think that was one of the best things about it. I made some of my best friends from that.
I love that idea of engineering memories. I think that really sums up what you're trying to accomplish so well. So that's great. Okay, so it sounds like you brought Oriental Trading to Snap, and then through your experience and success with them, you connected with other brands. So let's get to that part now.
Yeah, I mean, partly through them and partly through the other conferences. Like Snap had their own sponsors, and I was meeting them too. Then I started being invited to come to the Craft and Hobby Show, which at the time was CHA, it was CHA back then, Craft and Hobby Association. And that was a trade show. That's very different than a conference. And I think that's important to note when you're looking for community. Conferences are more social. They're more geared toward, your community and your expertise. So like if you went to the Knitters Conference, you would find a lot of people who like to knit. They might be business owners. They might be knitting enthusiasts. They might be some retailers, but primarily they're all there as guests of that industry. CHA is kind of like H&H. It's a trade show. People are there to buy. The manufacturers and retailers are there to display. They're there to show you what's coming for the year, and as a designer, you don't want to interrupt a conversation at a trade show between a buyer and a retailer or a manufacturer, because that would be very bad. But the opportunity for me at those shows was a lot of those companies hire demonstrators to bring
Right.
the vibe to the booth and to make it exciting and to kind of show how to use that material. Being multifaceted crafter, I could work with almost any brand and bring people to their booth just by being in the booth and showing people how to do things, because I'll pull you in from the aisle. I will go find people and tell them what I have coming up, and I will show up with a crowd because they're excited, to be part of that, because I'm bringing that party in that dome that I talk about. That is with me everywhere. Whoever's around me is in the dome. And so
Right. Yeah, totally. And I'd love to hear like from those experiences. And I'm sure you've observed other demos, because you're right. Like when you go to a trade show, you walk around, and demoing things in the booth is part of what, brands need to do to show people, okay, this is the new ruler. This is the new, material, the new notion, whatever it is, and allow people to sort of get a sense of it, especially for retailers, right? So that they can decide, oh, I love this. I want to bring this project, this material to my shop. So
Yes.
those demonstrations are key. It's almost as important as having a sample when you're trying to sell a pattern or trying to sell something. People need to see what is it going to look like. And this is an experience that people have of doing it themselves. So from your experience of demonstrating and watching other demonstrations, what makes for a good demonstration? How do you create that dome you were talking about?
I mean, definitely you want to have a demonstrator who is comfortable talking to people. There's a lot of demos I've seen where the person is good at the craft, or they're good, at being enthusiastic about the craft, but they're not great at engaging. That person is a salesperson for your booth. And so I think that's a key element, is that they be comfortable and very inclusive and able to, just call someone and say, hey, would you like to join us? You have to be comfortable inviting and be welcoming. So I think that's very important. Someone who understands that people who come up for that demo need a lot of hand holding. They need patience. And so designing demos that don't take a long time, or, things to consider like dry time, or, if you're working with paint or glue or something, you need to think about, how long is the person going to be here? Those demos, they need to be quick and snappy, because you want to move people in and out of the booth so that there is a lot of flow. And I think bright and colorful, on your display, it makes people in the aisle, they peek their head out like a gopher, like, what's going on over there? You see that it starts to gather. And so you want to build on that with color, put a lot of supplies on the table, have some of your friends stand around it so that it looks like something's going on. Inevitably, that's going to draw lots of people to the booth, because once something's going on, everyone wants to know what's going on. And then, of course, a fun and engaging something they can take away, something they can wear so that other people see that branding on them. I love like a wearable little piece of art, or something that goes on the lanyard, a necklace, a bracelet, where someone goes, where did you get that? Oh, I just made it. And it's a conversation piece, the item that they take away. So I think even just down to the colors and the energy of what you're making is very important to, once that person goes back out to the show floor, people are going to want to know where they got that thing. And then they come see you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that FOMO is huge, right? So as soon as there's a line, as soon as there's a line, as soon as there's a crowd or a group, people are walking up and down these aisles, and they immediately are curious, like, what's going on over there? And it's just like a psychological thing that human beings do, where a crowd is forming and we're curious. What is why is there a crowd forming? I want to know. I want to, maybe be part of it. I don't want to miss out on whatever is happening. And so you really need to create that. Yeah.
Yes. And the inviting is important, because that's where we get our introverts to come over, because our introverts are at that show for the same reason. They're there to discover creative things. And if you have a demonstrator who's willing to identify that person who might not be so effervescently talking to everyone and say, hey, would you like to join us for a creative activity? It's free. This often will create amazing conversations with people that would never start one. And once they're in the booth and there's people around, now they're being surrounded by new friends. They have the opportunity to kind of make one-on-one connections. So I just think it fosters a great sense of community and being part of something. So again, it's a party. I bring that party to the booth.
Right, exactly. And honestly, when they look back and remember their time at the show, they will remember having made that resin dried flower pendant or whatever it was, in that booth, because they got to take it home and they talked to people. And as you said, it was a memory that you engineered for them.
Yes, very much so.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So you started coming to the craft trade shows, and it sounds like did some other brand collaborations as well. So in your estimation, as somebody who has worked with a variety of brands over many years, what makes for a good brand collaboration, both from the brand side, as far as what they are providing and how they're structuring the relationship, and also from the sort of content creator side, as far as like what you're providing and what you're contributing to that relationship?
Right. So I think that needs to be really clearly laid out from the onset. I think there are a lot of brands who rely on, a trade of product for a post, or a trade of product for images or social media content. So it's definitely important to stay up to date on your social media if you want to work with brands, because if a brand gives you a product, they want you to talk about it. That is implied. It's never just free stuff. If you're accepting, something from a booth and they've given it to you at a show, the understanding is that you're going to do something with it and talk about it. So every one of those items is a small obligation. I think the thing that people don't understand is that these brands are watching their social media like hawks. If you are consistently calling out a brand that you love and it's organic to your business, that's a great person to pitch, if you're looking to work with a brand. It's the stuff that is natural to you. So I don't really work with any brands that don't, fit into my listening or my realm. I definitely work with brands that, I can create party stuff with or holiday stuff with. I am not a soft arts person, so I don't really work with yarn or embroidery or quilting. So I would never pitch those brands because it's not very organic to what I do. It's not authentic for me. Could I? All day. I could, but it just doesn't really feel right. And I think they'd be better off with a content creator who really resonates with their product and can talk about it deeply. I can talk about paint, glitter, and glue deeply, makeup, cake baking, stuff like all of that. I'm your girl. Anything where it's a party favor or something to enhance your holidays or decorate something for your home, I'll do those kinds of posts. And so I think that's a really important element, is make sure it's a good match to you and that it feels, very authentic to who you are, because the social media audience can tell when you're just the front person and it's not, they're not going to go for that. I think another thing for brands to understand is your social media representative is not your salesperson. That is a marketing placement, and the ROI is often difficult to determine like what it will be. It takes time. Social media is like a snowball. You build it now, but it keeps building for years. Like once you create that piece of content, it may not hit immediately, but it lives on the internet forever. I've seen Pinterest posts go insane like 5 years later, right? Because a trend will emerge and now people are looking for that thing that you did 5 years ago. A lot of social media creators, including myself, are trend forecasters. So the things I think are cool are typically 2 to 5 years ahead of their time. I'll give you a great example. So I'm a Halloween lover, and I love freaky Halloween. I love scary Halloween and I love cute Halloween, but all Halloween is my jam. And so one year for Oriental Trading, I pitched a scary doll graveyard. This was like 5 years ago. And they were like, Christie, you scared one of our team members. Like, this is not our audience. They will not like this. This is too over the top. I'll tell you, I was like, okay, I'll tone it down. No big deal. I understand. I'm just telling you what the brain says to do, right? 5 years later, they carry an entire line of scary dolls and scary doll graveyard. And, creepy, everything doll heads. And they asked me to come back and do the post now, but you can see that that's just, I knew that was coming. So, sometimes I think it's good for the brands to kind of trust what the people who live in the world of design are experiencing, because by the time it hits mainstream, we're already kind of over it. It's like by the time Gnomes, hits its peak, we are already on disco balls. Like, we're at the next thing. And it's because we have that core community of women who are coming up with those ideas that fuel Pinterest. We know what's next. We know what colors we're onto. We know what we're tired of, because we've already been doing it, for quite some time. And so I think a little trust, and understanding that, your social media doesn't immediately impact your sales. It impacts your presence and your optics for your company. And so it's something it's alive, and it's always needing to be tweaked and looked at, modified, see what's working. I love analytics. Behind the scenes data is makes me so happy to put that together with, actions that we're doing, and then come up with better actions to keep momentum going and growing.
And you, speaking of Halloween, you've done some events that have been entirely online, which is a very different sort of setting than doing something in person. But you kind of hopped on this idea of the metaverse when maybe some people were unsure about it or just unfamiliar with what it meant. And it sounds from talking to you like the first metaverse event you did, which I think was a little bit closer to pandemic times, was really successful. And now it's sort of changed a little bit. But talk to us a little bit about doing those online events and some of the advantages of it, some of the difficulties that it presents. Do you think it's going to last? I'd love to hear more about that.
So I learned about the metaverse. I had a friend, and we were interested in creating an online event because we saw with COVID, gatherings, that decimated my party business for a while. I was doing micro parties and driveway parties and just trying to find ways to stay afloat. I shifted heavily into the working with brands, and then all the supply chains dried up, and we're like, what do we do? What can we do about this? And how can we foster connection when we can't leave the house? Like, this is horrible, especially for an extrovert. I'm like, I need to get out and be around people. I'm dying on the vine over here. So we found a platform that was based in the metaverse and created this online conference that anyone in the world can attend just by logging in. It's really a lot like logging into Facebook or logging into Instagram, except it's a world. It has walls. It's a 3D immersive land. And we designed it. Like we went in, you can go to online conferences that are in buildings with an avatar, but we went in and I threw a Ritzy party over the building, changed the color of the sky, changed the walls, changed the avatars to witches and monsters and Draculas, and then all of the content was my high influencer creative friends. They created video content that was all Halloween based. And so I programmed this all onto a stage and created a 12-hour day of global connectivity. Then I pulled in my brands, and there was a sponsor hall and another sponsor hall. They all had booths. And if you clicked the booth, you could be face-to-face from anywhere you were, Orange County for me, talking to Mumbai, India, live, face-to-face on camera. We're both at the same event. We had a costume contest, scavenger hunt, a selfie wall. We asked people to attend the event from their house or their phone in a costume because it added to that, authentic connection. I'll tell you, it had the same energy as a real conference. It was not as widely attended as I had hoped. I think our ticket price was a little high. So this year I tried to revamp it and get more attendees in. But I think the challenge this year was that the demonstrators who had talked about it so much last year, they already did it, and all of our friends already came. And so it was very difficult to get new people into it because the people who created it were kind of over it. I had brought in a lot of new brands thinking, this was just a great way for them to kind of test drive that, that platform and that technology. So I think that aspect was cool. You know, the event itself is flawless. Like, you know, the timing and the way that it worked was great. But yeah, attendance wasn't high. And I think part of the reason too, it is before its time. When I tried to explain to a lot of sponsors like what this was, you know, the general reaction is like, wow, that is so cool. So where does it take place? And the answer is in your brain, really. It's you're looking at a screen and it's 3D and it's immersive, but you're at your house. It takes place wherever you are. This is hard to sell to people over 30 or 40. Like it's so spatial and it's so futuristic. And I think they're like nervous about it because they don't really understand it fully. So that definitely is part of the challenge. But I think just like the doll party, I think in a few years, people are going to look back and be like, whoa, wait a minute, what?
And what is the name?
It'll catch on.
What is the name of the platform, if you don't mind sharing? Because I think maybe some people might want to try it and check it out, maybe for a different craft niche, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there are many. The platform is called VFairs, and it's VFairs, like V like Victor, fairs.com. Highly recommend the company.
Cool.
What we did was go in and design over their, you know, their existing like environments, basically. Like you go in and you pick an exterior walk up, and then you pick a lobby, and then you pick a, you know, a hall, a theater, you pick, you know, another lounge area, and then you kind of put your custom stuff on that, like your signs, your banners, and that's it. That's your basic, you know, creation of an event. We changed every single thing. This was Halloween Fantasyland. I mean, spiders were crawling on the walls, ghosts were floating by, a witch flew over. You know, it was something entirely else. I actually love to do that. That was my goal, was to keep doing that for the brands. You know, I could create the yarn and knitting needle conference and make every room themed, you know, and come and take the Ritzy party and throw it over this you know, electronic environment and make it very immersive online, because it's data. You can do anything. You know, our building looked like a cauldron, and it bubbled and it steamed, and it, you know, really had a lot more to it than what you would get from just starting a conference. It was creatively, you know, formed.
Yeah, totally. So maybe ahead of its time, but something to continue to consider as, you know, time goes by and maybe people become somewhat more comfortable with a little bit more of an immersive. I mean, I think we're all very comfortable now with Zoom, with seeing online education, for example, as just as valid as in-person education. And there's actually advantages to it because you can be in your own studio and have your own materials and your comfortable chair and all the rest. So there's pieces of it, and you can have an instructor who's in Australia. Meanwhile, you're in the US or whatever. So there's a lot of things about it that are really special. And so maybe as time goes by, some of these platforms will kind of continue to, you know, to be interesting, and a more immersive experience might even become something people are really seeking out. So that's good. Thank you for sharing about it. It's really interesting to hear about. And I also wanted to talk about disability representation in the crafts industry and inclusivity, because I know this is something that we all could work on and do more of. And I wondered if you could talk, because it's something that you're passionate about. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the importance of representation and inclusivity.
Yes, absolutely. So as I was adopted in that family as a child, I had some medical issues, and I basically had to face the prospect of, I had several surgeries, and this left me with a loss of mobility. And that was a degenerative thing that kind of, you know, got a little just slightly worse, like year after year. And I just am such an adaptive person that, you know, I've worked around it. But at this point, the way that I attend these shows is on a mobility scooter, because I cannot walk that floor. And, you know, I don't want to run out of strength or endurance during the day. I don't want to ever fall down, you know, because I got too tired or I'm going too fast. And so the scooter really helps me get around. What I found, though, is that there are not a lot of people like me at these shows who are, you know, at the same level. And I know that a large portion. I estimate at least 30% of the creative community has some form of disability that prohibits them from attending these shows. And part of it is the travel itself, the planes, or the transportation. Another thing is budget. I think a lot of people, who are disabled don't have the extra funding because it's expensive to be disabled. And then the access at the shows, these are crowded, and a lot of the activities and the stages, and there's no access. I have never seen a ramp to the stage, and I've been a speaker where I couldn't get on the stage because there was no access for me. And so I think it's of all the groups that we're cognizant of, this disabled group is one that is not really talked about a lot. I think a large reason is disability is such a broad term. You could be hearing disabled, visually impaired, you could be mobility affected. We have autistic guests. We have, disability is very broad. How do you encompass it? And I think just the main thing is that there's representation, that we are looking to include disabled creators and disabled business owners in our panels, in our, speaking engagements, hiring, folks as demonstrators, giving space where space is needed to have representation, because it makes it okay for everybody else to see, like, oh, I could go to this show. It is working. And then another thing for sure is just inclusivity, be willing to hear from someone who's not having a great experience because of an access issue, and be willing to look at it. The way we create our websites, using those alt text portions, like what that's for on a website is so that someone who's visually impaired can hear what the image is about. And that's very important if you are a person who needs that. Websites that don't think of that, you could be losing, a great portion of your audience just because they can't understand or access parts of your site, or they can't see it, or they don't understand it. So yeah, I just think being always inquisitive, always looking at that as a consideration, being inclusive of all sizes of people, all genders, it's part of the inclusivity, goal that we're all kind of looking to do is make sure everybody has a seat at the table. And I think this is one that can be uncomfortable to address, but it needs to be, because that's a huge part. And there's estimates that in the next 10 years, we're living longer than ever. The disability estimates on what will happen to Americans as we age is staggering. And what disabled people who can't get up and go out and do lots of physical activities like to do, they like to do creative things that you can do sitting down and that you don't have to leave the house for. So it's a huge opportunity for the creative industry to address.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing about that. And it's something that I want to keep in mind more. And I hope our listeners will as well. So appreciative of that. And I want to make sure we get to your recommendations because you have some really good ones. And one of them is being a content creator for a new streaming channel called Made TV Network. And we actually did a little article about it as well, but I'd love to hear your experience so far.
Oh gosh. Okay. So if anybody is familiar with the magazine franchise Where Women Create, the founder and visionary behind that is Jo Packham, and I met her almost immediately when I entered. She was one of the first people I met when I started in creative. So I think, I started my business in 2012. I think I met her around 2015. And in 2018, I was featured in her magazine among many of my friends who have been. And then recently, Jo sold the magazine and started putting all of that energy she has into this new streaming network called Made TV, which is basically the magazine. It's gone, to video. So she engaged a lot of us content creators and creatives to provide videos, basically. So what you get there is first a video about who each creator is. So you get kind of some story. And then you get videos about where we create, including tours of our studios and, that kind of thing. And then every month we're contributing content that is workshops. So some of them are longer format, and you can learn anything from, throwing pottery to junk jewelry bracelets to right now there's a ton of like holiday workshops going on. I just did one doing wreaths and designer bows with wire. I've done holiday headbands with wacky stuff on top. Other people are doing paint, and lots of your favorite creators are on there. So we have like Seth Apter and Kiki Johanny, just, people that cross all different levels of creativity. And then we also do made in a minute videos. So they're a little quicker format, just a quick project. So it's like a channel that will very soon be available. Like kind of when you go on your Apple TV or your Fire Stick or whatever, you get all those little squares of the channels that you can choose from. Made TV will be a square that you can click on, and it's an annual subscription. I can give you guys a discount code after this. I have to go look up what it is. But
that would be great. We'll stick it in the show notes for folks.
Yeah. Perfect. But
that
I'm having
great.
a great time doing it, and it's an amazing community. It's just growing and growing. So a great resource for anyone who loves creative content and wants to just watch it streaming on TV.
And you also have been playing with water marbling supplies from Deco Art. So speaking of H&H, they had a demo in their booth doing water marbling. I think they were doing some sneakers when I walked by. And I was like, this is the coolest thing. I want to do this immediately. So I'm jealous that you actually got the materials because I haven't done it yet.
Oh my goodness. Deco Art is such a great company. They, I've worked with their products for years because paint. Glitter paint, like glitter galaxy paint, is insanely cool. But yeah, water marbling is kind of their newest thing. I'll tell you, on Pinterest right now, there's a 10,000% increase on searches for water marbled decor, water marbled fabric. What they had done at H&H is use the water marbling on fabric and then created an insane quilt out of that amazing one-of-a-kind fabric. I'm using it on paper to create journal covers. I'm using it to, do things with cards, decoupage, jewelry, just limitless, the things you can dip into the water marbling stuff. And so, yeah, it's basically acrylic paint, specially formulated. There's an additive to the water, and you drop the drops of paint onto the surface, and then you can swirl them with a stick to create the most beautiful patterns. You can do flowers and hearts, and just kind of the more you do it, the more you get better and better at it. And
yeah, talking about a party, I feel like I need to have people over and just all of us just play with this.
Yes, it's so much fun, and I love that they're selling kits for it. So you can find them on Amazon. You can find it in craft stores. You definitely need the magic medium, and there's a surface prep. These are like 2 little jars of stuff, and then just whatever colors of marbling paint. They also have like a rake and a comb that can help you, kind of pull through the paint and make these insane like herringbone looking patterns or paisleys. They have their own unique paper. Their paper is the best. Their water marbling paper is just bar none. So yeah, having a super fun time with water marbling.
Very cool. I'm like, I need to, maybe I'll get it for my birthday. We can all do it together.
Yes.
But, and then your last recommendation is an art-based event that you're planning, and it's called the Society of Wildflowers Conference. So tell us a little bit about what that's all about.
Yes. So, I'm getting older in my craft and my life, and I wanted to do something a little more meaningful than just, I create a lot of creative content and parties, but I wanted to do something that really had more impact. And something I've experienced in the creative community when I go to all these shows and conferences is I meet the most amazing women, and I see that a lot of them are stuck, or they're a little bit like apologetic for the space that they take up. And, as me, the extrovert on the mobility scooter, I am anything but sorry for the space that I take up. I love being out around people, and I'm often asked, like, how do you do this? How are you so, this way? And, I put together something that is for women's empowerment. And it is a ritzy party, but it has so much meaning behind it. And basically, we are meeting in Laguna Beach next year. It's for summer, July 17th to the 21st. And I've bought out a small hotel, and we are immersing women in art therapy. We have all of these different demonstrators, and the goal of these projects is not to learn a new skill or to have a perfect project. It's to really get in touch with yourself emotionally as you experience the tactile nature and the colorful nature of art supplies. So we are working with water marbling, and that class is called Fluidity of Thought. You know, our minds are like the paint. We're doing a body image study in clay. We're doing stab therapy with wool roving and needles, you know, and it's less about getting a perfect image or felt painting, but really, you know, the emotions you feel. And are you stabbing tightly? Are you stabbing? What happens when you do it more loosely? What colors did you choose? How did they blend together? We're doing things with resin. We're doing things with paper and mixed media. Just you name it, we've got a representation of some type of that art form in there. We're also have other segments. We have licensed therapists on staff there to coach and provide guidance. We have soulful leadership groups where, you know, you get your values and your what's important to you in alignment with what you're doing. We also have body wellness like yoga, introductory yoga, chair yoga, adaptive yoga, breath work, freeform intuitive dance, laughter yoga. And then we're doing a lot of ceremonies. We have a flower mandala building ceremony where everyone kind of contributes intentions and flowers, candles, crystals. So there's a little bit of the woo in there. And then, of course, it's in Laguna Beach during the high season of summer. We are sponsored and invited by the Sawdust Festival to come in. So everyone gets free tickets to that. We have an optional outing to Disneyland and to the Pageant of the Masters. There are 100 spots, and they've been going pretty well. Like we don't have 100 spots left anymore. But I'm definitely still pushing the conference. There's a couple rooms left at the host hotel, a full hotel across the street. And I'm so looking forward to it. We have demonstrators and teachers coming from all over the world to come in and teach, and it's all women. And then, of course, there's a welcome party the first night where I think people's minds will just be blown by how I'm overlaying this hotel with the wildflower theme and immersing them again in that dome of care and intent. And you know, it's a community of women. So we stay connected after that, and we build friendships that are deep, meaningful, and authentic.
Well, Christie, that sounds wonderful. I hope people will sign up. I will put a link in the show notes to that directly so folks can come and check it out. And it was just great talking to you, learning more about you. So thank you so much for being on the Craft Industry Alliance podcast.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks so much.
And you've been listening to the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Today's episode was brought to you by the Academy for Virtual Teaching. The Academy for Virtual Teaching is a community of creative entrepreneurs building proficient, profitable, and professional online teaching businesses. Are you ready to invest in your business by adding online education to your income stream? The Academy for Virtual Teaching can help you overcome your fear of technology and use educational video as part of an effective marketing strategy. Learn how at a4vt.com. That's the Academy for Virtual Teaching. And check out the show notes for this episode to get a 30% off discount. Thank you so much to the Academy for Virtual Teaching. Craft Industry Alliance is a community for craft professionals. When you become a member of Craft Industry Alliance, you get in-depth coverage of craft industry news, the opportunity to connect with fellow professionals for advice and support, and access to an educational library filled with ideas, tools, and resources to help you as you build your business. Join us at craftindustryalliance.org. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.